go. All right. So today we need to talk about retailing and wholesaling. When we talked about channels, obviously retailing and wholesaling are part of the channels that we talked about. Why do we have an entire chapter dedicated specifically, since we talked about them in the channels marketing section, why do we have an entire chapter dedicated to retailing and wholesaling? What percentage of Americans, so President Trump likes to tout the stock market. The stock market's at an all-time high, and he thinks that's a great indicator for our economy. What percentage of Americans actually own stocks? Not that many, less than 50%. In the 1980s, it was up to 60% of Americans owned stocks. Now, most Americans don't own stocks. According to Gallup, it's probably a little bit less than 50%. And those that do own stocks, do they really know what they're in? How many of you have a 401k or some kind of IRA? Do you really know what your stocks are in? Or do you just check the, I'm going to retire in, 2060 or whatever it is, and let it ride. Most people don't have any idea what their money's in. So they have it as part of a 401k or a Roth or something like that, and they're not really all that heavily interested in what their money is in. But a huge portion of the economy is retail. I mean, it's a huge section of what makes our economy go. And if you don't believe me, just look at, all of the stores. Go to Dallas. From here to Dallas is one perpetual shopping experience along I-35. I mean, it's just almost, there's just city after city anymore from here down I-35, and it's just full of Lowe's and Home Depots and Walmarts and all kinds of other stuff. So it's an important part of our economy is retailing. So the value that retailing places, obviously, it has these utilities: time, place, form, and possession. Walmart is really good at having the stuff, or at least they say they are, and they used to have really good just-in-time inventory control, which cut their costs, and having the products there at the time that you want. Now, I am like a man going to the gallows when I have to go to Walmart. I hate going to Walmart. It is one of my least favorite experiences. But you have to go because they've got the cheapest stuff, all the stuff that you need, right, at the last minute. Things like underarm deodorant, razors. We've talked about this before. Walmart is the largest seller of soap, textiles. Now that may change and Amazon may replace them. And I've seen all kinds of Amazon Prime vehicles, even in Guthrie, running around. And so they may be surpassed, but Walmart is the largest retailer of all these things. Diamonds. And so they have it there when you want it. If I run out of underarm deodorant on Sunday night, I can run to Walmart 24 hours a day and they have it. Now you have to fight off the Yeti. When you go through Walmart, I found evidence that the Yeti do exist. And they're in the Guthrie Walmart. And you have to fight them off with their little Yeti. And I don't know what it is about these people that they insist that they have to bring all 16 of their Yeti children with them into the Guthrie Walmart. But they're there, but you have it at the time you want it. In the place you want it. It's convenient. Walmarts are located all over the place, right? They've got stores everywhere, particularly across the South. In the form, again, thinking about what we were talking about in channels, I don't want a case of underarm deodorant. I want like an individual thing of underarm deodorant or an individual Reese's. So they have broken it down and they have possession of it, right? They take possession of it and there's a risk. We had really bad storms last night in Moore, Oklahoma. What happens in Moore it seems like every spring. Yeah, I mean, poor Moore just can't help but be hit every spring by some devastating tornado. And from time to time, the Walmart has gotten hit, I think, in Moore, or the Sam's Club, I can't remember which one. It's right there on I-35, it's gotten damaged. So they're taking a risk. They have the possession of this stuff, and if it gets hit by a tornado, they're taking that risk. So the impact of retailing, 4 of the 40 largest businesses in the United States, and this is according to your text, and the text is a little old because they don't mention Amazon, which is now becoming an online retailer, and I think that's obviously one of the largest businesses today. Who's the wealthiest? They hypothesize that maybe Vladimir Putin is actually the wealthiest man in the world, but nobody knows because all of it's very opaque. He doesn't have to release things like what? Financial statements and stuff like that. But people who are like Jeff Bezos, heads of large companies they have to release, financial stuff, and they can estimate based on the amount of stock that he has, which Amazon, he's a major shareholder and an officer, so they have to release that kind of information. They say that Jeff Bezos is now the wealthiest man in the world, but before that, it was Microsoft. Before that, it was a retailer. It was Sam Walton was for a long time the wealthiest man in the world until he divided up his wealth among his children. So Walmart, Costco, Home Depot, and Target. So it's a major part of our economic well-being. So we can classify retailers in a number of ways. Form of ownership, independence. There are 1.1 million independents out there. And in online, this is growing. Lots of people are starting their own little online, in the early days of eBay, one of my colleagues in law school was paying for her law school by selling stuff on eBay. She was buying containers of stuff and selling it on eBay really cheaply. And also she won one of these. How many of you watch these reality TV programs called Storage Wars? She was doing that. She was going and buying storage lockers before Storage Wars came on and was popular. She was early one of those that was able to buy the units and then put it on her eBay site before Amazon. So independents, 1.1 million of those. Corporate chains, things like Walmart, Target, Dillard's, those are corporate chains. Contractual systems, we talked about this, things like the International Grocers Association, where they come together and they pool through a co-op for pricing, to get pricing. We can also classify retailing not just by form of ownership, but by level of service. So self-service, things like warehouse clubs. And you'll see when we talk about in just a minute, and by the way, today's class will probably be fairly short. I've got to run my mother to a doctor's appointment. So if you are at all offended by that, you let me know and we'll stay late on Thursday. How's that? So level of service, self-service, warehouse clubs, things like Sam's started out now. What you'll see is that they've moved in some of these along the wheel of retailing, and Walmart is a prime example of this. But in theory, warehouse clubs like Costco and Sam's are self-service. You go and you pull it yourself, although that's not necessarily true anymore of Sam's. But in the early days, we've gone to Sam's for my business for 36 years. I make the Sam's run every Friday and have gone, done that for like I said, 36 years. And what you did in the early days was even different than going to like a Homeland, which is what they were when I was growing up. And actually, before that, they were Safeway. We had Safeways, and Safeways went out of business, and they were taken over by Homeland, which bought all of the Safeway stores, and it was an employee-owned thing. Now, Homeland has rebranded some of those stores, and they're called Cash Savers, and that's what we now have in Guthrie as a Cash Saver. But stores like that would have people that bag for you. They had bags, and they would, actually had bag boys that would carry your stuff out to the car. Now they have one bagger at the Cash Saver in Guthrie, but there used to be a lot of bag boys at those establishments. But that was not what warehouse clubs like Sam's did. You went in, it was basically put out on big racks. It was a warehouse environment. You go out and you pull it yourself, and they didn't even provide bags at Sam's. What would they do? You could dig through the boxes that they were about ready to compact, and you can box it yourself and then carry it out. Now they've changed. What will Sam's do now? You can fax they started about 10 years or 15 years ago, letting you fax it in to the club. Now you can click and pull or phone and pull your orders in. Limited service. Walmart is becoming more than just limited service, if you think about it. We'll talk about this when I talk about the wheel of retailing. But Walmart was for a long time limited services. They didn't provide financial stuff. What's a full service? Well, things like the department stores were full service. They have at Neiman Marcus, they have concierge that will help you shop, that will do other things. They have financial services. You can get a credit card with them, and they have credit services. And then they have what else? Well, like at Christmas time, and even other times of the year, but during Christmas particularly, they have lots of people that are employed to do wrapping, so that you can get your stuff gift wrapped. Now Amazon will do all of that. how many of you bought stuff wrapped? Ramson does a really good job at wrapping, actually. I like their wrapping stuff. So, full service retailers. But now Walmart has moved along the wheel of retailing. And we'll see that. Types of merchandise lines. So we can also classify retailing by the types of lines that they have, the depth of the line. So what are they carrying? If you go over here to Best of Books in Kickingbird Plaza, which is an independent bookstore, and I'm amazed that they have managed to survive both the onslaught of the big bookstores, the big box bookstores, like Barnes and Noble and Borders, and now Borders is gone. Borders has gone out of business, and I'm amazed that they even survived Amazon. And how did Amazon start out?
Kindle or higher, like a Kindle book thing that they had.
Before that, what did Amazon start out as? They were a reseller of books. They basically allowed people to sell their books online. That's what Amazon started out as, was book selling. And they've grown into something way beyond that. But if you go over here to my point to Best of Books in Kickingbird Plaza, they have a large assortment of what? Books. What kinds of books do they have?
All kinds.
Like, what are the categories of books?
Fiction, nonfiction.
Fiction, okay, there's two big categories. There's fiction and nonfiction. But even within those two broad categories, what do you have? You've got biographies, you've got history, you've got, in fiction, you've got fairy tales to, romance novels. What's the most popular nonfiction genre, would you guess?
It's like sci-fi.
It's not.
Romance?
It's not romance.
Horror?
It's murder mystery. Mystery novels are the number one most popular. Lots of people read murder mysteries. So you've got all this, and they carry all of that at Best of Books, right? If you go to Sam's Club, they have books, but do they have all of those?
Mm-hmm.
No, usually they have what?
Like kids' books.
Well, yeah, like right now around Easter time, they have what? They have some Easter books out, things like that. And they have a few other kinds of books, but they don't have a huge selection of books. Usually it's whatever's a bestseller and also sort of goes with the season. So currently, or until this last weekend, they had a lot of stuff on Easter. Christmas time, they have lots of what? Christmas books and things like that for kids to look at, boys. The breadth, the size of variety. So if you go over to Best of Books, they have some other stuff besides books, but mostly it's books. They have a lot of books. They have lots of different types of books. They have biographies and histories. They have, children's books. They have sci-fi books, and they have some other stuff. Generally, that's stuff that goes along with reading books. Like, what do they have at Best of Books? Would you guess? Up at the counter that they'll sell you.
Cafe or coffee.
Okay, I don't think they actually have a cafe or coffee there. That would be like Barnes and Noble. But they have up at the counter. They have like nope, bookmarks. So that, different types of bookmarks that go along. So I mean, that's not a book. So they've got a little bit of variance in there, but it's mostly stuff. So they have in the children's section, they have some toys that generally go along with the book. So, they've got little rabbits for the Peter Rabbit story and things like that. But it's mostly about and things that revolve around books. They're not selling what? Pallets of pop at Best of Books. So we can look at it in terms of depth and breadth. So Walmart or Sam's has a huge, now this is one of the reasons that it's also a more limited service store. Sam's Club has a huge breadth of variety of stuff. What can you buy at Sam's?
Everything from food to
Buy food.
kitchen utensils to chairs to
Yeah.
couches.
You can buy all that kind of stuff, but do they have a lot of depth in any of those lines? So you said they have food. If you want to buy, for example, macaroni and cheese, How many varieties of macaroni and cheese does Sam's carry?
Or the Kraft and Velveeta.
They carry Kraft, right? I think, and two types of Kraft. They have the shells, the last time I was there, and they have the powder, the little skinny box with the thin macaroni and the powder, right? How many types of macaroni and cheese can you get if you go to, say, Walmart?
Walmart, you can get their brand.
You can get their brand, you can get Great Value, which is the Walmart brand, you can get Kraft, you can get Velveeta, you can get some of the others that are now more organic. And if you go to Whole Foods, you can have they have like the Annie's mac and cheese and all these other different types. So they have a lot of breadth at a Sam's Club, but they don't have a lot of depth. If you want razors, and you go to Walmart, for men, they carry Harry's, they carry Gillette, they carry, a whole variety. And even within those companies, Gillette manufactures a whole lot of different types of razors, don't they? So they manufacture razor blades for the refillable razors that you can have. They generally sell the handles to those razors really cheaply, and it's the blades that are really expensive. You can buy the razors that have got 1 or 2 blades, the razors that have got 3 blades, the razors that are disposable that have 50 heads. I mean, they've got a lot of variety. Sam's doesn't have that. Sam's carries big packages they carry two types of razors, one for women, one for men, and it's the Gillette brand, basically, of those two. Maybe Schick, maybe like the lady Schick. So now there's a new advertisement out for women's razors, and it's that you can shave what? Anybody see these ads for the women's razor? What's the newest technology in women's razors that they've got?
Is it the one where you can shave like that?
You can shave back and forth, right? That's the latest gimmick in the razor industry for women, is that you can shave back and forth. Historically, if you wanted to shave, you had to do what? The safety razors were made to go in one direction and you shave down, or, if you wanted to go the other way, you had to turn the razor around and go back up your leg. Now, if they've got these razors that go back and forth, they don't carry that at Sam's. They carry it at Walmart because they have a large depth in each of those lines, but not as much at Sam's Club. So they have a lot of breadth. They carry razors, they carry clothing, they carry furniture, as Mr. Horn suggested. But if you wanted a lot of variety in terms of furniture, they don't have Mathis Brothers level of variety, or Nebraska Furniture Mart. They have some couches from time to time, some chairs. Every once in a while, they sell dining room tables. They sell pillows, sheets, things like that. But there isn't a huge amount of depth in those product lines. So non-store retailing, this is another big part, and it's becoming an increasingly larger part as online and Amazon are taking over. We're buying all kinds of stuff. And you can get stuff, in the early days of online, I remember a lot of people were very skeptical about buying online because it took so long to get to you. But now, with Amazon particularly having their own trucks and their own shipping, they guarantee it within what? You can get it the next day. You can get it free in 2 days, in most instances, if you're an Amazon Prime member. So automatic vending, obviously, we have a lot of that here on campus, because students, are in a hurry and need to get to class, and so you go down to the student lounge, and there's vending machines down there. Direct mail and catalogs. This is one area that's shrinking as a result of what? Those catalogs they're expensive to print. What's a disadvantage of catalogs? Not just that they're expensive to print, but what else?
You can just go online.
You can go online and things change. Once you print the catalogs, what happens?
You have a price reduction.
Yeah, you've got the catalogs, and you send them out, and things may change. And now you're stuck with that catalog. But they used to be huge. Sears and Roebuck was one of the biggest catalog, and they called it the wish book. You could order all kinds of stuff from the Sears and Roebuck catalog. When I was a kid, you could still order things like chickens from Sears and Roebuck. And when my mother was a kid, you could actually order from Sears and Roebuck. You could order pigs, I think, sheep. And you go back further and you could order houses. There are a whole bunch of houses in Guthrie that were built that are called shotgun houses. I told you all this before, that came from the Sears and Roebuck catalog. kit houses. And you order from the catalog and they arrive. TV shopping networks are another non-store retailing. Online is, of course, becoming the largest. Telemarketing was largely dying as a result of the do not call list, but the Trump administration, well, really the Trump administration, but before that, even the Bush administration had started to destroy the do not call registry. And so now, how many of you are getting telemarketing calls on your cell phones, which are really annoying? They have the thing that says do not call, and they've got telemarketing. So that's one that actually is coming back, because for a long time it was pretty much dead as a result of do not call. And then direct selling, going door to door. There are still people that do this. Avon is still sold largely door to door. There are representatives that go and take the catalogs every week to their customers and go door to door. All kinds of stuff that used to be sold door to door has now been going into other types of channels. So for example, you used to be able to only buy Electroluxes from an Electrolux salesperson who went door to door. Nobody really does that anymore. Electrolux is sold at Best Buy and also Home Depot, but that was sold door to door. There's a vacuum cleaner that was called Rainbow. Anybody have a Rainbow or remember Rainbow? I think they're still around, and I think those are still actually sold by independents. I don't think they're sold in the big stores. So Rainbow, the big deal with them was that they, instead of having a bag, they had a well that you put water into it, and all the dirt went and was trapped into the water, and that made it easier to then dump it out. And it was supposed to be better for your gut allergies. So, if we think about the wheel of retailing and the retail life cycle, so in stage one, you have low margins and you're trying to penetrate. This is what Sam, or this is what Walmart started out as. The first store that Sam Walton had was not called Walmart. What was his first store? Anybody know? Started in Arkansas. Where was he born, by the way? Anybody know? Look it up. That might be one point. He was born in Kingfisher, Oklahoma. So we can claim Sam Walton as a native son of Oklahoma, moved to Arkansas, and started, his first was a Ben Franklin store. So Ben Franklin were a chain stores that were franchised out to people that were called five and dimes. So everything was either a nickel or a dime in the store. And he started adding other stuff to what they traditionally carried at the five and dimes. One of the things he went to, I believe it was New York, to a show and saw these things that everybody told him he was crazy for buying them. They were called flip-flops, and they said nobody would wear those. And coming from Arkansas and having this Ben Franklin, he thought, wow, people in the South will really, and the people in the South have taken flip-flops. Why is that? It's hot. They're cold. They're cool. Right? I mean, it's like the least amount of shoe that you can possibly wear. So he bought these huge supply of flip-flops and then marked them down really cheap and put them on an end cap, and they sold like crazy. But people in the South before Sam Walton had never seen flip-flops. Now, can you imagine? Everybody in here probably has a pair of flip-flops. Anybody not have flip-flops? Why don't you have a pair of flip-flops? Are you some kind of communist? Like flip-flops are bomb. Particularly, lakes, boats, flip-flops are great. So he started putting these things out. He attracted the attention of the owner of the building, who thought, wow, this would be a really good business for my son-in-law to get in. So he refused to renew the lease on Sam's five and dime, and basically gave it to his son-in-law. So he's looking for a new place. He then opened his first store that was marketed under his name. It was called Walton's. This is his last name, Walton. And he moved to another town and started that. And then, of course, that transformed into Walmart. And as Walmart took hold, they still stayed with, and they're still to this day, they're logo and their slogan is what?
Save money.
Everyday low prices, right? But then you start to get more stuff, you get better quality. So he went from just selling, and I remember when I was a kid growing up, Walmart stuff, the thing that made Walmart attractive was they would take everything back. They had a great return policy, and they would take anything that you bought back, even if you'd done horrible damage to it, with no questions asked. Well, that's a little bit more service and a little bit more level of concern than you had with just the five and dime. So you start getting higher quality goods. It's not just flip flops; they actually carry shoes and things like that at Walmart, and you get a little bit higher margins. Then you're strongly established. You get a little bit higher price and higher cost. And now in stage 4, you get competitors entering. So what happened with Walmart? They've now got all kinds of stuff. They've become really a full service. You can get a Walmart credit card, so they have credit card services. They have banking services that used to be offered through primarily one of the Walton families owned a bank. However, I've noticed that was Harvest. They've now got other banks inside of the Walmart, so they're not all just the Harvest. Because I think Alice Walton, who was his only daughter, actually has divested of that. But they have financial services. What else will Walmart do for you now?
You can order online.
You can order online and pick up. So that's really more like the concierge service, right? So they're getting to be more like a full service retailer. And then you get competitors entering with low margins and penetrating. So who's entered the market to compete with this? Well, it's been largely Amazon. Amazon is now Walmart's biggest competitor. And their model is that we're going to sell everything online. Right? And so they're able to do that. And Walmart's online presence has been lagging. But they've started to pick up. And now you can get all of this stuff and you can order it and they will ship it to you, or you can pick it up in the store and they'll have it ready for you. So multi-channel retailing, this is an integrated approach. So Eddie Bauer sells stuff, for example, through actual physical locations. They also sell online and they have a catalog. So it's multi-channel. Orvis, anybody a fly fisher? Anybody like to fly? My brother likes to fly fish. I don't have the patience for it. But that's a big retailer in sportsman fly fishing. They have a store, a physical location. It's located it's not Burlington, Vermont, which is where Bernie Sanders is from. It's another city in Manchester, Vermont. It's where they have an outlet store. They sell primarily through catalogs and also online. It's important that we manage the customer experience. And this is becoming increasingly more important. And when we talk about integrated marketing communication, we'll talk more about this in terms of what people can do. We used to say in the olden days, when I first started teaching marketing years and years and years ago, that if people didn't like you, they would tell 7 people about you. If they didn't like you, they would warn 7 people. If they really liked you and you really provided good customer service, they might tell 3 people about you. Maybe. That's not true anymore, is it? If you hate somebody and you have a bad experience, I mean, people have dedicated entire websites, and I think Walmart has tried to go in and buy them all up. But there was, I remember about 10 or 15 years ago, a site that was like, IHateWalmart.com. And I think Walmart finally got that person to sell to them, and it redirects now. The last time I tried it, it redirects to Walmart. But people are capable now of telling the entire world if they don't like you. This is called NWOM, negative word of mouth. And they will slam you online in every forum imaginable that you can find. And so it's really important to manage customers' experience. Gone are the days when you could, say, well, if I really annoyed that customer, you know, how much damage can they do? They couldn't do a whole lot because pretty much they're going to be limited to telling their friends or family. I guess they could have in theory, and there were people who from time to time, I remember one of my friends who owns a car dealership in Guthrie, John Vance. He had this woman that was really annoyed with a car that they sold. And this was back in the 80s when American cars were not doing so well. Lots of American car companies were having real quality control issues compared to the Japanese cars. And at that time, and I don't think John does sell any foreign cars to this day. I don't think he's got a foreign car line. It's all American cars. But they were really bad. And this woman got what she considered to be a lemon of a car. And she actually took out, you know, full page advertising in the Guthrie Daily Leader, calling John a crook and saying that he was, you know, had sold her a lemon of a car. Most people back in the 80s didn't have the money to do, because newspaper advertising was expensive to kind of find that reach. And so it would be odd that somebody would do that. In an online era, that's no longer true. I can get online on, you know, all of these different platforms, Facebook. You know, I can post Instagram photos, I guess, of me, you know, giving the thumbs down or maybe another finger symbol towards, you know, the sign or whatever. There are all of these websites that aggregate these kinds of things. It's not just for products or services. Even college professors have to think about this. How many of you look? Yeah, you should. Probably ratemyprofessors.com. How many of you look at that? I encourage you to look. My colleagues are horrified that I encourage you to look at these things. But, you know, those kinds of things are out there. You should make informed choices. And part of that is understanding and taking in information. And so these become critical in this world where people can really put it out there, their experiences with you, that becomes critical to manage this customer experience. Now, one of the things that's interesting about this is that Amazon has found out that even if a product has bad reviews, and so they used to do this, there used to be a program, I think they've ended it now, but it used to be called the Amazon Fine Program. It was very limited. Nobody really knew about it unless they asked you. If you wrote enough reviews for Amazon, they would start asking you. They would start sending you product to try and get you to write reviews for them. Because what they found was that even a bad reviewed product got more buyers than one that had no reviews. So sort of a takeoff on the only bad press is no press kind of saying. But it's important to manage these customers' experiences because customers do have the opportunity now. There really is a democratization of information with regard to consumers in the modern era, postmodern era. Wholesaling, we can classify wholesalers as full service and limited service again. So full service wholesalers are people like US Foods. They have delivery systems, right? They provide all kinds of not only channel marketing, but they also provide things like financial services. So you can get credit with US Foods, and so you pay once a month. They deliver to your business, you know, probably once a week or more frequently if you're a large restaurant, and they have terms, you know, like 30 days, same as cash, and they have financing for those things. There are also agents and brokers. We talked about this. They generally don't take possession of the product. They simply bring people together in a market and sell. Manufacturers, agents, these are generally independent distributors that act as the producer's sales force. And we, of course, I gave you an example of this, the company that I worked for. We sold primarily, we had a small inside sales force. We sold primarily through independent distributors that didn't take title to the product. They just went out and made contacts with the school districts, did the product demonstrations, and then sold on our behalf. And then brokers who bring buyers and sellers together, and that's used primarily in produce and grocery in a lot. Any questions about retailing and wholesaling? All right, so next time we'll start moving into integrated marketing communication and in advertising. And then we'll have the fourth exam. So the fourth exam covers less material. So you have less to study for that last exam. And then it's all over but the final. So we're on the downhill slope. Again, if you feel cheated by the fact that I got through this early, you let me know and we'll stay late. I'll just read to you something.
Stay safe.
Yeah, have a good day.